Kyle, are you ready? Okay. So, hello, my name is Guillermo Prieto.
I am Gael Gonzalez.
And I'm Valentin Sandoval.
Today we are interviewing Father Bill Johnson on December 14th, 2020 through Zoom. So we will begin with our first question.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Bill.
Good morning.
Mr. Johnson.
If this is all formal, you gotta say Father Bill.
Okay. I'll be starting off with your just childhood questions and questions about you growing up here in Milwaukee.
All right.
First off, I'd like to ask do you have any vivid or clear memories growing up here in Milwaukee?
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, should I just tell you about my family a little bit? So
Yeah, whatever.
So I was born kind of on the north side in a housing project, actually, for the first 6 years, and I was the fourth of really 9 kids, and eight of them were boys. So my sister is my favorite sister, if you know what I mean. All right. So, and she's 1 year older. She's the next one up from me. She's a year and a half older. My dad was a salesman, and my mom pretty much worked at home until, did she? Yeah, she worked a little bit. You know, guys know, you know what Tupperware is?
Yeah.
All right. So she ended up selling Tupperware for a while. You know, you have these home parties and stuff. She worked hard. So we were trying to, get food to eat. I mean, at times it was like that. And then we finally moved to the east side of Milwaukee, near in Saints Peter and Paul Parish. So that's a block, 2 blocks north of North Avenue, and near Oakland and North. But we lived off of Oakland at Kenwood, so right near UWM, University of Wisconsin Milwaukee. And so I always had across the street, I had a baseball field, basketball hoops over here, and a football field behind that. And I got into sports pretty big time. And after 4 years, I used to walk into Shorewood, the next suburb north, right, and go to St. Robert's School for 4 years. And that's when I played basketball and football and all that. And so my childhood memories was part of a big family. And I had paper routes, I had a sentinel route in the morning, get up at 5 o'clock and deliver papers along the Milwaukee River on Cambridge and on Bartlett Avenues. And then, you make like $12 a week or something, I don't know, but you had to go and collect too. On Thursdays, you go ring the doorbell and say, give me my, whatever it was, 85 cents for the week or for the newspaper. And God, you could never do that today. You get robbed before you got half a block down. But at 12 years old, mind you, So then I had an afternoon paper route with the Journal. Now it's the Journal Sentinel. They merged them, right? And it comes in the morning. And all my brothers had paper routes too before that. On Sundays, when the papers were big and thick, especially in the winter, we make my dad get up and drive us in the old station wagon he had. And, it would be cold as hell and snowing and stuff, and you're carrying these big papers. So those were kind of good memories, actually, but a lot of work. And then inevitably by the end of the month, my dad's saying, hey, you got the $10, lend me $10 for the to buy some food and stuff. I never got that money back either. I'm still pissed. All right, so not really, I'm not, but because we all had to pitch in, right? And so by the time I got out of St. Robert's, where those were kind of more well-to-do kids, but we all got, well, not all of us, but I got into Marquette High School. Actually, that's one memory I can remember. We lived in an upstairs flat, a duplex, and it was a Saturday morning, and I must have been about 5th grade, or not younger, 4th grade, and my dad was up in the attic, and he was sweeping the attic floor, just wood floor, and it had this kind of red sawdust stuff, it collected the dust, so you push it forward, and my mother came up there, and she says, David Albert, my dad's name. Look at this letter we got from Marquette High School. And my oldest brother, David, was in 8th grade at St. Peter and Paul. And so they opened it, and my brother, was accepted to go to Marquette High. But how were they going to pay for it, right? So they said, I don't know. Can we afford this? It reminds you, back then, that would have been 1961. Were you guys around then? No. Were your parents? Maybe not. All right. So they said, but the tuition was like $350. Partially because, well, back then that was more money than it is today, but also because so many Jesuits, priests and seminarian guys, scholastics they call them, right, at Marquette High, were working there. Very few lay people. Now, how many priests you got there? Like 3 or 2, or I don't know. So, in other words, the priest worked for nothing, virtually. So, long and short, my brother went there, and he used to work in the kitchen there, and he would answer the telephones at the Jesuit residence and all that. And you guys do any of that work?
No.
You're not on work study? Oh my God, you're rich kids. All right. So I always worked, flipping hamburgers and tater tots and stuff when I was a freshman, and then I worked in the main office there for the last couple of years, answering the phone and stuff. And all my brothers then, for at least one of us Johnson boys was at Marquette High for 19 years straight. Can you imagine? So all of us went to college. Actually, my sister didn't, but she's not a boy, right? She did go to college, but she didn't graduate. And so, yeah, that's some of so I was a pretty good athlete. I was a big star football player at Marquette High. I ran track. I played basketball for the first couple of years. I should have stayed with it. I could have been somebody.
Okay.
All right. Anything else on that?
You mentioned how you were a paper boy. How was that? Like, did you enjoy it? And was it like, is there any like certain memories you have from being a paper boy other than you and your brothers and with your father?
I learned that early in the morning can be the best time of the day because everything's quiet. It's dark usually, especially in winter. And then you're 12 years old, man. You get your butt out of bed, and then I had to go. Usually, if I could, if the snow wasn't too deep, I'd take the bicycle down to Edgewood, which is a good mile or so to get the papers at the paper station. And then sometimes we'd roll them. Sometimes you'd have to sub them, put the one section into the other, and then you'd roll them. And you have to learn how to fold them. And then you put them in the basket in front of the bike. And then I'd ride up the street and I'd throw the papers. I got to be pretty good getting them on the porch, except one really cold, windy winter morning, I threw it, the damn thing got caught in the wind and went right through the guy's what do you call that, storm window on the outside. I said, oh shit, now I'm not going to get my 85 cents when I go collecting from him. I don't remember him ever charging me for that. I don't know. Special delivery, they call that. So it taught me a little bit about entrepreneurship, if you will, or earning your way. So whatever money I made, I'd buy my clothes and stuff. I remember once I was in 8th grade, and my mother took me to buy a bed, just a twin mattress, and that was a big deal. Get me a new bed. God, I sound like a poor kid, but I was, I guess. But it didn't seem to. I thought that was an advantage because I kind of knew that, nothing was given to me, right? It was earned, and that builds character. It builds intestinal fortitude, right?
You attended St. Robert, and you did mention how everybody there was so like rich, or how you.
They had more money than my family. That's for sure.
How was that experience there at St. Robert's?
Well, I liked it. They were nice kids. We were kids. There was cute girls and good sports teams and stuff to do usually. And but I didn't live in Sherwood, so I was an outsider kind of. But I made good friends, and hey, some of those guys, especially those that went to Marquette High with me, I still see them. You know, they're you won't believe this, but they're what 52-year-old friends now. I've known them that long. We started Marquette High in '67. Imagínense.
Growing up with the amount of siblings that you had in one household, how was that? Is it like, I feel like that'd be stressful at times.
Well, and so when we bought our first and only house after the duplex, we moved there in 1961, and had 4 bedrooms, small, and 1 bathroom. Can you imagine 10 people trying to, I don't know, maybe you got some of that too, but trying to use a bathroom. If you wanted to, relieve yourself, you could go all the way down the basement. There was just a toilet there, but to go in and brush your teeth or take a shower or bath or whatever, that would have been, I don't know how we did that, but we did it,
Growing up, is there any like a certain hangout spot in Milwaukee that you had or that everybody went to, like just to hang out?
Oh man, you guys. There was parts down near St. Mary's Hospital. This was in the hippie days, so it was a lot of drugs, but mostly marijuana, some LSD and stuff, and free love, all that sex, right? From, I don't know if you know about the big rock festival in Northern California, Northern New York State. What was that called?
I'm not sure.
It was called, I'll tell you, don't get old. It was called, you should find out about that. That was a fabulous thing. That like 1 million kids showed up for like 4 days. It was pandemonium. I got it on the tip of my tongue. I'll tell you in a minute. Anyway, so there's a fountain right there at the end of North Avenue when it comes to the lake. You might have seen it near St. Mary's, Columbia St. Mary's now, hospital. And that's where all the druggies would hang out, and you'd meet there. But, our parents said, don't you go there. They don't want us getting involved with that. So I didn't really much. I mean, I knew friends and had friends that would do that. What other hangouts, really? If you had any money, you'd go to the drive-in, like a Leon's on the south side, custard stand, or Big Boy's. Big Boy was a hamburger place, a restaurant. Yeah, and there was one right near UWM there. That's where I lived. It was like a drugstore, but you could get a hamburger and French fries and whatnot. So, yeah.
Is there any certain like places that you went to when you were growing up that are not around anymore today that you remember?
Well, I can tell you that I know the city pretty well, and I can like leave my house and get there just on time, because I know there's almost the street lights too, where to turn and stuff. So when I drive around, on this block, so-and-so lived here, and that happened over here, and that house burnt down, and remember when there was different events. So yeah, lots of things. Like, you guys know where Riverside Park is? You know where Riverside High School is? So it's just to the south of that, and it used to go from Oakland Avenue to the river. And I remember when we lived on in the duplex, and I went with Kevin Flannery. This kid had red hair, freckles, and we were like 2nd grade, and he had some really cute sisters, and his dad was a house painter, and Kevin stole a bunch of cigarettes from his mother, like a rest of a carton. So, you know, and he and I went to Riverside Park, and there's a railroad track. Well, there was. It's now a bike trail. And you go under this tunnel under the track to get towards the river there. But we were up in the bushes smoking these cigarettes as second graders, you know. And the cop car pulled in. We got all excited because, you know, we want to get busted. But I don't know if there was smoke piling out of the bushes there. Anyway, that's the first time I smoked a cigarette. And I guess I didn't really I didn't take it up. I never smoked cigarettes, really. I was lucky or smart or both, probably. That's one thing that, okay, so now that railroad track doesn't exist anymore. There's the point. And one more thing. So when we were kids, there was a park, right? And we found this, it was a dead snake, but it was just a grass snake. And the railroad tracks were there. So we put it on the track and we waited till the train came by, and the thing gets cut in half. And we're looking at it. Oh man, this is ugly.
Following from that question, was there any certain places that are still around today that you remember as growing up?
Oh, sure. Actually, they tore that down. But I was thinking across the street where we had the different sports things for UWM then. You know, it was, it had been called the Milwaukee Teachers College or something. And then the university branch opened up in probably the late 50s or so. So that baseball diamond across the street from where I lived at 1900 on Kenwood was now, for a long time, a physics building. The football field behind that is the chemistry building. And the Baker Fieldhouse, where I ended up running for Marquette High and indoor meets and stuff, that's torn down. That is the business school now on Maryland, just north of Kenwood. But MUS, Milwaukee University School, was right behind that first football field. So on Hartford there, and that still exists. UWM plays soccer there. And UWM has a pretty good soccer team, as you might know. And at least they used to. You still playing soccer, Valentin?
Yeah.
Gael, you play?
Yeah.
On the team?
Well, I don't play like for Marquette. I usually just play like Sunday league.
Oh yeah. After church, right?
Yeah.
And Guillermo, are you futbolista
Yeah, I am.
for the team?
Yeah, I am as well.
Are you one of those kids that made the all conference or all state?
Oh, yeah, me and Valley won state this year.
Yeah, great. But were you all state player yourself?
Oh, no.
Did you play a lot though?
I had a good amount of playing time.
And what about you, Valentin? Were you on the Marquette High team?
Yeah. We were both in the varsity team, and I actually I was fortunate enough to make the all-state or the all-conference team.
Hombre, felicidades. Nice. So are you guys juniors now or seniors?
Juniors.
Juniors.
You got one more year,
Yeah.
so you can play some more. Yeah. Cool. Did I tell you that last time that when I was at Marquette, I played football, but we started the soccer program, I think my first year. And there was a classmate of mine named John Constantine. He was Greek, but he looked like you, Valentin. And he had a big, heavy beard in high school, you know. And he was the goalie, and he was all state or something. He was pretty good. He wasn't that tall though. And then the coach was maybe you know him, Gansler, yeah, who was a terrific. He was from Germany, and his wife taught when I was teaching at Marquette. His wife was on the faculty, and he coached like the Pan American team for us, and then he was an Olympic coach too. Bob Gansler, I think he's still alive. think he's maybe in like St. Louis or somewhere. Anyway, that was the beginning of the program you guys are carrying on now. And if I'd have played soccer, I'd still be playing, man. I can run still. Do you guys see our new soccer field here at Cristo Rey?
Yeah, I did. It's very nice.
Spectacular, no? We got lights and everything.
Growing in today's age, there's technology and TVs and all kind of electronics to be busy with. But like growing up, what were certain activities or things you did since you did not have electronics?
Chicos, mire, we, the Johnson family, never had a television until President Kennedy got shot. And that was 1963, right? And did we rent it? I don't know. We had it. We got a TV and then we watched. I was sitting in my living room when I saw Jack Ruby shoot. Not Carlton Armstrong. That's a whole nother story. Shoot the guy who shot Kennedy. What was his name?
I'm not sure.
Like Lee.
You guys got to know your history. I got to remember it.
Wasn't it Lee Harvey Oswald?
Exactly, Lee Harvey Oswald. And on TV down in Dallas, I guess, you actually saw the guy come out he's wearing a hat on, and boom, boom, he shoots the guy, kills him. And no, wait, Lee Harvey Oswald, yeah, killed, yeah. And that guy, I got it. But so I got to watch that on the first TV we ever had. And I think we ended up, buying it or bought another one, or we got our own television. So we never had all that stuff, even like the kids that I was in school with all had I would go over there to watch TV, And we never had cell phones, of course, till I forget when cell phones really became common. But you guys, that's all you've known probably, let alone then computers, right? So that changes everything. But I like music. My brothers, some of my older brothers especially, we collect records, LPs, long play records, the big ones. And one of my brothers, my next youngest one, Andy, told me yesterday, he lives in Pennsylvania. He said, now check out these two songs. He gave me the names. I knew the songs. And he said, it'll be a big flashback and you'll enjoy it. It was fun. Actually, let me see if I have those. No, I don't. I'm Your Puppet. That's the name of one of them. Check it out.
Oh, yeah. I've actually
know that?
Before, yeah.
And then the other one. Okay. So music was big and the radio. And then we used to listen to AM radio, not FM. It was WOKY was the big rock and roll station.
So back during that time, was there like rock and roll was a thing there? What was it? Did you go to any rock and roll concerts growing up or anything like that?
Yeah, my favorite concert was when Ricky Russell's brother Backy, took us to Milwaukee County Stadium before Miller Park existed, right? And James Brown and the Fabulous Flames played a live concert. They were out like on second base with the stage. And, we were some of the few white people in the audience there in the grandstands there behind home plate. And that was such a great concert. And he, James Brown was the king of soul, soul brother number one, the star of our show right here on stage. And that was, and everybody's dancing in the aisles and stuff. That was a high point, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually happen to listen to James Brown. I have him in my playlist.
Cool. Well, so you should know about Joe Tex. I was just reading about him last night. TEX. Joe Tex was a black guy from Texas. He was from Texas, and many said he was soul brother number one. And those two fought. I mean, literally, they almost got shooting at each other one night. Joe Tex's wife ended up going to sing for James Brown for a while, and then then he says, I'm done with it, you can have her. And Joe Tex wrote a song, You Keep Her, or something like that. It was, those are great stories, great moments.
That's that's it for my questions. We can move on to Guillermo's.
Okay, Guillermo.
So now I'm just gonna mostly ask you about your high school and teenage age. So during the summertime, what were some of the things that you and your family or friends will do to have a good time or to pass time that necessarily doesn't happen in today's world?
Well, I can tell you, we never went on a vacation. That's what you're talking about. Couldn't afford it, but some of you guys go to Wisconsin Dells, right? I've never been to Wisconsin. I've driven through it. Well, a couple of times when this would have been before high school, my dad took us to Muskego Beach. I don't know if that exists anymore, but it's in Muskego here, right? Southwest of town. And it had what do you call it? Amusement park. So a merry-go-round and a Ferris wheel and bumper cars and all that. And that was a big night out that I remember. But high school, I had a job, of course. I was working. I had a really pretty good job after freshman year, I think. That summer, I got a job working as a gardener and a caretaker, sort of this family, Robert A. Eline Sr., they owned Schlitz Brewery. The Schlitz was the beer that made Milwaukee famous. That was their byline. And it's still made, hardly though anymore. But they were wealthy people, and the wife there, he was dead by then, but Mrs. Mary Ilsley Eline, that was from the Ilsley Bank, Marshall and Ilsley Bank. That was it's now called BMO Harris or something, right? And that was U.S. Bank before that. The big building downtown was M&I one time. Anyway, they had a lot of money. And they lived on Lake Drive, and I stayed in that job working till after my sophomore year at UW So I was making really good money. I sometimes think it was just too good of money, but I wasn't growing much because I was just, doing the same thing. You'd cut the grass and plant the gardens, and we did everything. I was the chauffeur for her sometimes, and we'd run errands and clean. But the money was so darn good. But diversify when you're young, do different things, learn different things, I think. But so I don't know, does that answer some of your question?
Yeah, it does. And in today's world, during the summertime, Summerfest is a very popular thing for teenagers to, not only just teenagers to hang out, but also for adults and Milwaukeeans. When you were our age, did you go to Summerfest?
Yeah.
Do you have any experience with Summerfest?
So I don't know what year that was, but Sly and the Family Stone were going to play, right? You ever remember them at all? You should go Google them and listen to one of the songs. We are family. You got what? Anyway, but they were big druggies, and they took forever to come on the stage. They were smoking or drinking, whatever, and people were getting disturbed about it. So like 3 hours late, they came on the stage, and they were all messed up. But it was a decent concert. I'll tell you another guy I saw at Summerfest one year, who's no longer with us, but anybody know who Roy Orbison was? Pretty Woman, that song, and it became a movie, of course. Pretty woman walking down the street, pretty woman, the kind I like to meet. It's a great song. And he wasn't blind, was he? No, but he wore dark glasses, and he was real white and like almost albino. He's a strange looking guy. but he could sing. He had real high falsetto voice. And he had these two kind of chubby girls in the background singing the background stuff, you know. And I was with a girlfriend of mine, and I said, and they had these purses, right? Those string purses, and they cut between their breasts and had a little pouch right here, little bag there. And I said, yeah, those are the Twinkies that they would eat between the songs. I don't know, maybe that wasn't true, but we had a good laugh. So Roy Orbison, Pretty Woman, check it out.
So after leaving middle school and graduating after middle school, was Marquette one of your first options coming into high school?
It was my only option because they had good sports teams. It was good academically. My two brothers, Dave and Steve, let's see, Dave had already graduated, and Steve was 3 years older than I was. So, you know, they were blazing the trail. They had cleared the way, and my parents, especially my mother, liked the Jesuits. So the Catholic part, it was important. So I went to Marquette.
How was your education and experiences in Marquette? How has Marquette changed from the time you were in until how you see it now?
Well, so like I was telling you, educationally, I was, you know, it still is a very good academic curriculum and stuff. And the kids that come there are pretty capable, right? Come from not always advantaged backgrounds. If there were suburban kids with money, they had, you know, they've traveled and they had clubs, they played tennis or golf or whatever. But there were plenty of guys from the city too with me, mostly white guys. There's only one black guy in my class. Now there were a couple, but one guy that I used to run track with. And very few Hispanics, yeah. And then, but what there was, there were the vast majority of the staff were Jesuits, either regents, you know, those guys that teach you the Mr. So-and-so, right? You got any of those now? Probably very few, but we had like 20 of those guys there. And they were young, but they would engage with the kids well, and they were pretty bright. They were decent teachers. And then we had some priests that have been there forever, right? Who were like stalwarts or backbones of the place. So that presence was always there. And so a certain discipline and a certain academic rigor, and then good clubs and good teams and stuff, and good faith life too. You know, there was, of course, the theology classes, you guys get that. And then we didn't have daily mass then, but my oldest brother, they went to mass every day back, you know, the mid 60s. But we had it once a week, I think, optional, you know. I don't know. How often do you guys have mass there?
We have it now, it's every Wednesday.
Well, you do. That's pretty often. Many guys show up, do you think?
Yeah, a good amount show up.
All right, well. And of course, that whole entrance from Michigan Avenue never existed then. We would come in on Wisconsin Avenue, or the west door there on, where that, what do they call that? Hampton Field or whatever they call it? To the
Acton Field?
Yeah, that was Humphrey Chevrolet. That was a car dealer right there then. So they're not there anymore. Kids would go out in front of Humphrey's to smoke cigarettes, so get away from school. Not me.
After graduating from Marquette in 1971,
I got two more stories to tell you if you want to hear these.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So I'm driving up Wisconsin Avenue last week, and there's a statue of St. Ignatius out there. You've seen that, right? Like to the west of the gym entrance, between the gym entrance and that first old building of the school entrance. And that statue, by the way, used to be in front of the Jesuit residence, which was on Michigan Street, that I worked at as a student, answering the phones and stuff, and where I lived when I was teaching at Marquette High as a regent. Anyway, right there where that statue was, after a dance, was at our junior year or senior year, I don't know. Some kids from, well, it's called Don Bosco, I think, back then, which became Pio Nono. But Don Bosco was a all-boys school run on Muskego and about just a block north of Lincoln. It's some kind of, it still exists, the building there. Anyway, there was a big rivalry, right? And then we used to not, fight with guns and knives and shit. They would just fist fights and that. Well, after the dance, we were leaving, and these guys got out of their car and they just started swinging. One guy had a monkey wrench, and he whacked one of the guys, a good friend of mine, in the mouth, and his teeth were flying. And it was kind of sad, bad. And Jamie Coster, he died in a car crash later. But he always had that one tooth he would pull out for you, just to tease. And then just beyond that, where the entrance is, you could look outside there. The easternmost entrance on Wisconsin Avenue of the old school building before you go into the gym. There were two guys. One guy was a wrestler. Anyway, they were like button heads, or like Marquette High now calls themselves the Rams or something. I mean, the helmets have that little, how they would. These guys were fighting, just screwing around wrestling, but then it got out of line, and people were like in the windows up there watching them fight. It was like who's the man here? Who's going to beat the other? Defeat, and that was kind of a macho moment. It wasn't me fighting, but I could see, and I knew one of the guys. And finally, somebody, adults came out and broke them up, and I think they got in trouble. But those little moments of adolescence or becoming a man, and then how do you put up or shut up? So even at a Marquette High, that's the end of that story.
So my next question is, after graduating from Marquette in 1971, how did you feel about Dick Basham taking over coach management for football?
Dick Basham, yeah, because we had a guy named Frank Kopensky, and he was the history teacher too, and he was a hard ass. He was from like Upper Michigan somewhere, and he played football at Marquette High in the what, mid 50s maybe, I don't know, early 50s. I guess he was all right, but he was like old school, and I don't think he ever abused us. I mean, he certainly didn't hit us or anything, but he was. So one time I was on the varsity team as a sophomore, and we went to play football, right? So we went to the first game every year was to go to Campion, which is in Prairie du Chien. You know where that is? It's on the Wisconsin, on the Mississippi River on the west coast of Wisconsin. Couple 3-hour drive probably. And we get up on a Saturday morning. This would have been August, right? Hotter than hell. And you drive to the Mississippi on the banks. It's wet, and the humidity is just dripping. And that was our and that was a Jesuit school, Campion, boarding school. A lot of Chicago kids and whatnot. Iowa farm boys, big strong guys, right? So we're playing football there, and we getting beat at halftime, and we came in, and I couldn't believe it. They had these big trash cans full of ice and Coca-Colas, and Kopensky, nobody touches that stuff. And we're dying, dehydrated. Our electrolytes were out, and it was before our Gatorade and all that, right? But he was punishing us because we were losing, and then everybody was cramping up with heat stroke and stuff. I actually got in the game that year. So the next year was his last year, and then they kicked him out. He said, you're out of step with the times and stuff. So that's when Basham took over. And when I came back to teach at Marquette, Basham was football coach, but he's also a track coach. So I was a track coach. I was a freshman track coach for a while, and he did a great job. I didn't have a lot to do with Basham, but he had some great teams. In fact, is he still alive? You guys know?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I hope so. But I think it was his wife was at a game, and she ended up like stroking out. She died at watching one of the games. That was a sudden sad thing.
You mentioned that you participated in track and you also coached in track. While being an athlete and a coach, did you win any titles or did you win any state medal or any awards?
Oh man, in track or in football, yeah. Football, we were pretty good. I was all conference. I led the conference in scoring football, and I was a defensive back. I was telling somebody yesterday, they got these. They were talking about these professional players, how hard it is to play ball. I said, well, come on. I told them the first and only time I went to a Packer game in Lambeau was about, oh man, I don't know, it was about 15 years ago. It was when they were renovating the stadium. They're remodeling it, putting all those luxury boxes and stuff. It was an October day, beautiful. Trees were changing, We cooked out, what do you call it, tailgated, and we went into the stadium. And I'm watching the game, and you realize how long those damn TV commercials are. Because you're sitting there waiting for it, and the guys are on their knees, drinking water in the middle of the field. And then they start playing again. And, by the time they hike the ball to the whistle's only about sometimes 5-10 seconds at most. And then they wait. So they're not in great shape. I was telling them, I never left the field when I was playing Marquette High because I guess I was kind of a leader and I was pretty good. So I played offense and defense, and I was on the special teams, and but when you're 17 or 16 years old, or 18, I suppose even, you're in shape and you got energy and stuff. I could probably only last a half now. And I got a bunch of medals. I'll show them to you someday, Guillermo, if you want.
Okay.
You know why? Because this summer, believe it or not, just looking at me, you never guess it, is my 50th high school reunion. So I've got do you guys wear those letter sweaters still? They have those?
Oh, the varsity sweaters.
Yeah, you got your big M on there, and then they put the chevrons for if you got multiple, what do they call them? A major and a minor letter, I guess. And then you could put the medals you got for running track or whatever. I think I know where mine is somewhere. I'll have to dig that out for next summer. You know what we're gonna do? So they have usually it's a Friday get together. Sometimes it's only the actual graduates, the boys, not their spouses and that. And then the next night they do something as Marquette High or at Marquette High or whatever. So I want the first night, Friday, to be here at Cristo Rey. Let them come and see the other new Jesuit high school in town. And then, of course, I'm going to hit them up for our capital campaign, too.
Before entering Marquette and after leaving and graduating Marquette, how is your relationship with God and your religion stance?
Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! Well, I was Catholic grade school, Marquette High, but then I went to the University of Wisconsin in Madison, and then after 2 years, I thought I was going to study medicine. I was doing the pre-med sciences and all that. But I had like a 3.4, which was pretty good. But back then you needed like a 4 point to get in. So I took a break I said I better reconsider my motivation here or my qualifications, and ended up working. I was in that job up on Lake Drive I was telling you about. So I worked the summer and into the fall till about through September, I think. And then a friend of mine, the guy I was telling you about who lost a tooth, he and I, no, he was out there though. But so we took a trip to there was another guy who he was a big dope head up in Madison on my floor at Og Hall. Anyway, Billy B. And we went and we did a trip out to out west, you know, and I hardly been out of the state, and borrowed a car that my parents, I think it was probably the first car they ever bought new. My mom bought it, my dad didn't, you know, and you wouldn't know that. It was American Motors. They don't exist anymore. Gremlin. You know what a Gremlin looked like? You should look that up. I got a call here. I'll call you later. Gremlin. It had a sawed-off back. It was a little car, and we drove that like 4,000 miles. We were gone for 2 months. It was terrific. We camped. We had all the stuff in the back, all the national parks and stuff, and that kind of opened up my world a little bit. And then it was either go back to Madison and you know, pursue the pre-med curriculum, or I had studied French at Marquette High. Actually, I studied Latin the first year, and then I studied French, and I kind of liked it. And the UW system, the schools had a program in France, go a semester abroad, right? And Oshkosh, UW Oshkosh was the host that year. So long and short, that was January 1974. And I went to France. It was me and like 3 other guys and like 43 co-eds, babes, you know. And we were in Paris the first month or 6 weeks, and then we went to Reims, northeast, the big cathedral town. Anyway, spent a semester there, and I think that was the first time I was on an airplane. And then I was living in a dormitory over there with a student who was an Asian guy, Lung Manwei. He was from Hong Kong, and we used to walk to school back and forth. But he was at Oshkosh. He was a foreign student, right? And we became good buddies. And then because you don't remember this, but that was we had a recession, economic recession in this country, and so they wouldn't give work permits to foreign students. So he was going to go home that summer, and I was going to go, you know, about the Eurail pass. It's a railroad pass, and college kids would go over there, and they would, you know, just tour all over Europe. And you know, what day is it? What country is this? It was see Europe, and I was going to do that summer. But then he said, "You want to come back to Hong Kong?" I said, "Jesus, I'm never going to get to the Orient, right?" And so long and short, I ended up spending the summer in Hong Kong, and that was a whole nother world. And just even getting there on a big, what was that? A 747 Air France. It was a huge plane, still is, and you know, going through Tel Aviv, Israel, right? You couldn't, the security was so big, they had machine gun guys waiting. You couldn't get off the plane if you weren't, you know, if you were in transit. And we went to Cambodia, same thing, before we got to Hong Kong, you know, and on the way back, Thailand. And yeah, it was so little Billy Johnson had his eyes opened and see some more of the world. And he came home broke. And that's when I went across the street to UWM, and I finished there with economics and French degree. I got a French. Je parle français, but I don't get to use it too much. You want another story, or is this, we got a good time?
If you want to go ahead and say another story, we're good.
All right, ready? So when I went to UWM, they had La Table Française. It was a lunch thing where for gringos or for people that want to learn French, you'd come in and you'd practice your French and eat lunch. And there was a French girl there that we kind of took a shine to each other, and she ended up staying. I'm glad I never married her, but I still know her. I see her all the time. Not all the time, she lives in France, but her kid, Gabe, who could have been my son, I suppose, I did his wedding. I worked in the Dominican Republic through Creighton University, you know, our Jesuit school in Omaha. Good soccer program there, you guys. And that would have been, 2009 to 2012. And Gabrielle and his now wife, Sophie, came down there and spent 2 weeks with me. We got them ready for their marriage. I did their wedding, I think in 2010 in France, en français. And then I baptized both of their children, 2 boys, in recent years. And I was supposed to see them last summer, but this damn COVID got in the way so that we couldn't travel. So, I'm still in touch with them. So again, the world opening up in different cultures and places and languages. If you get a chance to travel or to study abroad, do it. Because you don't have your family and a mortgage and all the different responsibilities. When you're young and healthy and free, take advantage of that. It's a whole nother way of educating and maintain some of those relationships or languages. You guys speak anything besides Spanish and English? No todavía. Okay. Work on it. And are you both, all 3 of you, literate, biliterate, be alfabetizado? Can you read and write and speak, both of them, well? With the right accent, ¿tú sabes dónde poner los acentos, Gael? Más o menos. A veces, yeah. Learn it. The great advantage. When you get out of college and you both have the same degree with some white, Asian, or black kid, but you say, hey, Gael, ¿tú hablas español? Yes. ¿Tú sabes escribir? Yes. You're going to get the job first, right? And just your life is going to be richer for that. But then learn, God, I guess you should probably learn Chinese now because they're going to be running your job anyway. Like it or not, or Arabic or something.
And then my last question will be, did anyone in particular, either in Marquette or in your parish or any other place inspired you to become a priest?
Yeah, I think all those guys that were at Marquette High when I was there had an influence for sure. One guy, he's out at St. Camillus now. The place up Blue Mountain, opposite the zoo there. It's an old folks home. But the Jesuits, we have a whole wing there for older priests or sick guys that are, chronically ill. And one guy, he's not that old. He's only about 76 or 7. Was a mister, a regent, right? A scholastic. There when I was there for 3 of my years. A guy named George Sullivan. He had an influence, but other guys too as well. And then when I finished at UWM and I had French, what are you going to do with French in Milwaukee, right? They said, well, you should learn some Spanish. You could use that. And then this guy, Sullivan, I'm telling you about, was studying law at Creighton. And he said, there's a Cuban-born Jesuit priest who's the chaplain at the medical school at Creighton who has this program in La República Dominicana, ¿verdad? So he said, if you want to learn the Spanish, go where it's spoken. Eso no es español, es dominicano. Buen día, ¿cómo tú estás? ¿Verdad? Habla así. Como los puertorriqueños también, ¿no? O los cubanos, aún peor. But anyway, it was fun. And that's where I went there and worked on his staff 1976, our bicentennial year. And then he kept getting me back in there. And that was a big link to, because then I ended up going to Creighton and working out there in the health sciences because we were bringing students from medical, dental, nursing, pharmacy schools to the Dominican Republic for 2 months in the summers. And they would do clinical work. And so that opportunity or possibility, at least for medicine, opened itself up for me. So I did the prerequisites and I took the MCATs, and I was actually on the alternate list at Creighton, but this vocation thing was coming up. Well, there's different ways to heal people, right? And the Dominican people, poor as they were so generous and joyful, much more than most of us Norte Americanos, right? We have all this material stuff, but we're not happy or we're not fulfilled or satisfied. And the music and the food and they share, so I thought, we come to help them and they end up helping us more closer in touch more with their humanity that we all share. So I started realizing that there's other ways to bring life and to heal, relationships or memories or and build possibilities for the future. Man, oh man. So that's when I ended up going to the novitiate up in St. Paul, Minnesota, 1980. Yeah, aquí estoy hoy. Sometimes I don't believe it, you know. ¿Qué más?
Yeah. So now we're moving on to adulthood.
Oh my God, that's going to be brief because I'm still growing up.
Yeah. So you grew up in Milwaukee, which was one of the most segregated cities here in the country.
Yes.
How did you feel about growing up in a city like that? Like, were there things you noticed as an adult that you wouldn't have noticed when you were a teenager about the city?
Well, you know, the central city we call, right? Especially the north of downtown and west of the river, actually more like Holton Street. That was all old German neighborhood when the Germans settled Milwaukee, and the housing stock was pretty good back then. But when the factories started closing down, well, actually, it was the Great Migration after, especially the Second World War, but even after the First World War, the former enslaved people from the South would come north to, and that's some of that. I was talking music a little earlier about I'm Your Puppet. Those were two black guys from Texas, and yet Joe Tex, let alone James Brown, he's from Georgia. All that soul music, and in the Delta, the Mississippi Delta, that's along the Mississippi River between Mississippi, the state, Alabama, Louisiana, and Arkansas, right in there. You got to read about that. There's anyway, that's all the great blues music, and they came up to Chicago. A lot of the Chicago blues had its roots down there, and so I liked I like Motown from Motortown, which was Detroit, right? Motown had great soul music, and Marvin Gaye and all the great the Temptations or the Supremes and all these great acts. So I was listening to it. I loved it. A couple of my brothers were really crazy about it too, and then they danced better than us, right? So I remember this guy Jerry Brown, who was Brown, was the guy who ran track with me. Oh, and another guy was our classmate. Se me olvidó su nombre. I could see him. He was a great dancer at these little Marquette High dances we had, So we had just a little bit of that, and yet I knew where the black people lived, right? And they were Negroes back then, and then they were black or Afro-Americans, and so all this different. You got to be careful how you say things. Are you guys Latino? Or are you Hispanic? And everybody would say, no, we're not. I'm not Hispanic. Hispanic is Spain, and I'm Latin. I don't speak Latin. I'm not a Latino. Okay, so I'm Mexican. No, I'm Mexican American. No, I'm Chicano. All that, how do you say the right thing and politically correct, or you don't want to microaggress anybody. Well, that's racism, and we still live it, and it's still there, and it's bad in our country. And we're trying. Here we got too many Latinos, if you will. We need Hispanics. We need blacks, African Americans. We need Asians. We need some white kids, güeros, right? So we want to represent who's in our city. Yeah, this part of town, South Side, is heavily Hispanic, Latino, Latinx. Now you got to say Latinx. You can't say Latino, Latina, Latinx. All right. What do you guys say? What do you like to be called? Gael. Like to be called Gael, right? Guillermo, ¿eres hispano o latino?
When people ask me, I just say I'm Mexican.
Yeah. What about Valentin?
I personally don't really mind. It doesn't.
Either way, yeah.
Yeah, either one.
Yeah, well, because sometimes it gets political pretty fast, or over against, you call me that for or something, and usually it's innocent, or it's not intended to have an edge to it. But so to your question there, Guy, I was aware of that. I didn't know too many black people. but I always uh, tried to respect them or their, and I felt bad for their relative poverty, right, and lack of opportunity, and mostly public schools that were not all that good for getting an education. And then I was going to say something about President Johnson, especially, but the whole civil rights movement, and and what they call that, the great. Anyway, it ended up welfare, right, or public assistance, and that was good in some ways and bad in many other ways, because you ended up people not getting jobs or not working in school to get a job. They just take the government money every month, and then if you were married, you wouldn't get as much, the two parents, right? So then the woman was alone, and then the dad was out. You know, the very less and less two parent families are a earning male positive role model. So that deteriorated the African American family, for among other reasons, of course. But a huge part in Milwaukee was when they all came up north in the Great Migration for jobs, especially factory jobs. We had great jobs in Milwaukee, and like over here at was called Allen Bradley, but it's now Rexnard, and then out on 70th and Greenfield there or so was Alice Chalmers. They made tractors, and that was West Alice was a company town. You know, it was that's something that we were talking about earlier that doesn't exist anymore. And they're still trying to redo those buildings for different purposes out there. But all those, and then up on the north side, they had Alice Chalmers here, and that was called what? Well, and then they had Briggs Stratton. They made engines, small engines, a lot of lawnmowers and stuff. That's all gone. But the other one was not Alice Chalmers, but something Alice, right? Anyway, good jobs where a working man could feed his family and they get to the middle class. All those jobs went to the south part of the United States in the late 60s, and so they dried up, and the families ended up, broke or on welfare, and that just worsened. And then those jobs went much later to the Mexican U.S. border, the maquiladoras, and then to China now, So you go where you get cheaper labor, and there's no unions, and they pollute the environment, and we all suffer. But you get some piece of crap that you buy at Target that's shipped on these boats from China mostly that you don't need. It's cheaper, but that's getting into social justice and how do we preserve our planet, even water, the air, yeah. Amen. What else?
Yeah, so going off of that topic, do you recall any information or maybe possibly that your parents told you about the riots of 1967 that happened here in Milwaukee?
Dude, man, I was sitting after my paper out. I'm laying on the couch in the living room reading the Sentinel, and across the street was the physics building, and I hear this like a speaker, saying I forget what it was, we got you covered, or put your and I was scared pretty, like somebody's out there with guns and stuff, and nothing. I don't know what happened, but yeah, sure. I remember. I would live through all that. Most of the damage was done more in the central city, but yeah, you couldn't cross the bridge there over the river because you're going into trouble. I think they had the National Guard there that you literally couldn't cross from the east side to River West, now they call it. That would have been Locust Street, right?
Yeah, so moving on, how did you get this idea to create a nativity? Who helped you bring this idea to
it's funny you asked that, because about 2 weeks ago I live at a Rupe Jesuit community. It's 13th and Wells, right near Marquette U, virtually on the campus. And in the sacristy there, the little chapel we have, I found a book. It was the strategic plan for the Wisconsin province of the Society of Jesus from 1985. It was a 5-year plan. And one of the areas of for growth or development was Hispanic ministries, right? And I had taught at Marquette High. Well, I was teaching at Marquette High, 85 to 87. And I remember I had Junior Rodriguez, Virgilio. His dad was a deacon at St. Patrick's Parish. And we, the Jesuits, had just taken that over in 1982, I think. And then much more recently, we have Our Lady of Guadalupe also, right? Any of you guys go to either of those parishes? You been in there?
I go to some. I sometimes go.
Yeah. Yeah, but St. Patrick's is a really beautiful church. That was all Irish. There you go, 150 years ago, right? And when they built it, and the windows, the stained glass, and it's a lovely church. But so we had a presence on the near south side. The Jesuits did at the parish anyway. And I'm teaching at Marquette High, and Junior Rodriguez is in my sophomore religion class, right? And he's very shy. He's all these white guys around him, right? And they're all coming in from the suburbs, driving their Mama's Vista Cruisers, you know, on these literally looking down on these old neighborhoods from the highway where their ancestors lived when they first came to this country, right? The Germans, the Polish, the Irish, the Italians. And I mean, you're really, if you're going south on 43 there, if it didn't bend as you get over the valley, you'd run right into the steeple of St. Patrick's, right? It bends like that past the German Lutheran church, and then Alan Bradley, La Luna Latina hoy día, pero antes era the Polish moon, the big four-faced clock there. So a lot of history there. And poor Junior, you know, he wasn't as academically prepared coming from, View School or wherever he went. I don't know. Maybe he went to St. Anthony's. I don't know. Or Prince of Peace, which was called St. Luke's back then, on 26th and Scott there. So, and he, for Junior, used to, while these kids are driving in from Brookfield or Cedarburg, right, in their mom's cars, he was driving his bike across the 35th Street Viaduct to come to Marquette High, you know. So big differences. And so how are we going to help kids before they get to high school to be better prepared to go to college prep, Marquette High or other Catholic or private schools, then to the university, and to get a background or a foundation to do whatever they wanted to do, to be, to use the gifts that God gave them, and to be, breadwinners for their own families and that, but contributors to their Hispanic community or their parishes, but then the wider Milwaukee scene, but indeed the whole world. So we got the model from Nativity Mission Center in Lower Manhattan in New York City. And there's a parish called Nativity there. And the Jesuits started a middle school there for boys only in 1971, the year I got out of high school. They started, it was mostly a Puerto Rican neighborhood, the Puerto Rico, the relationship to the US. A lot of Puerto Ricans lived in New York too, or they came and went between the two places. And they had, how many of you guys went to Nativity, Guillermo?
Yeah, I just went to Nativity.
Well, so that camp up in Mercer, that every summer there first that New York school had a camp in Lake Placid, New York. They had the Winter Olympics up there one year, 50 years ago. And it's a beautiful area, a lot of lakes like northern Wisconsin. And they would take those mostly Puerto Rican boys for 7 weeks in the summer to get them out of the trouble in the neighborhoods there, and do basic language arts and math skills and stuff. And they had a swimming pool, but they had the lake too. They played sports and all that. And so that was the model that we were trying to since the Jesuits had the presence on the near south side at St. Patrick's and wanted to do Hispanic ministry, I said we should start a middle school. And then they said, yeah, good idea, Johnson, but who's going to do it? And then when I finished 4 years later theology in Boston, Cambridge, Massachusetts, they said, okay, put your body where your mouth was, you know. And I said, okay, let's do it. And I went to upstate New York. I saw their camp, and I went to New York City and saw this building. And then I stole a guy named Larry Seward, who was the principal at Marquette High. He was my freshman football coach, and he and I started Nativity. He was our first principal. I was the president, and we started it with the Camp Guillermo up there in 1993. Those first graduates are like 36 or 7 years old now. I see them around town with their own kids. Damn, I'm getting old. All right, I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yeah, it did answer it. So going back to sports, you were into sports, and here in Milwaukee we had a team for baseball called the Milwaukee Braves.
oh yeah.
Do you have any memories from going to games?
Sure. Do you know what they call this trail right back here in the Three Bridge Park here all along there?
Yeah, isn't it the Hank
Aaron Trail. Who is Hank Aaron, you guys?
He was like an African American baseball player. He was like really good, right? I forgot what they call him.
Well, Hammerin' Hank. He was the home run king forever, and he never took steroids, so he's still the home run king, I'd say. And he got his start as a rookie in the mid 50s here. And actually, the Braves won the World Series in 1957, and they were in it in 1956. They lost to the Yankees. Then we beat them. Hank Aaron, and there was one game, I think it was that 57. You can hear probably you can find it online. The announcer, they had four Braves at the time, right? They hit home runs back to back. One guy, then the next guy, then the next guy, then the next guy. It was incredible. And Hank Aaron was one of them. And so when I was probably in high school, I went to a Braves game. This was, the Braves left in 65, I think, and moved to Atlanta. But he hit a ball. He had really quick wrists, you know, and he could turn on the ball. And it was just a rope. It just kept going. It was still rising as it cleared the left field wall, you know. So, it was truly awesome. And he, what do you have? Like 715 home runs in his career. So that was a good memory. But they had other good players there too.
Yeah, you mentioned them leaving Milwaukee. Like, how did you feel when they left?
Well, that was, come on, this was, still is, right? A small town market. But the Braves back, especially in those early years, they outdrew, I think, you know, New York and Los Angeles, other big cities, just on attendance. The town was nuts for the Braves. And actually the Brewers do pretty well drawing crowds too still. So it took a while before Bud Selig and some other business people got the, where did the Brewers come from? I forgot now. But it became the Brewers when they came here. Well, they were in Seattle or something, I think. I forget what they call themselves, but yeah. And then, as you know, but years later, we built the Miller Park, which is name's going to change again, right? What's it going to be? The insurance company?
Isn't it the American Family
American
Insurance
Family
Company?
Insurance. Yeah, right, Guillermo. Yeah. See.
Yeah, so that's all the questions I have.
I'm free. I'm free at last. Thank God in heaven. No, it's we were going to go to 3. So anything else? You got to tell me a story of your own or what?
If you don't have anything else to share, any other stories, then we should be finished.
Well, I could probably talk all day. So, but this has been fun. I enjoyed it. So tell me, how do you use this stuff? What do you do with this?
I'm pretty sure we send this to our teacher, and then we post it on the YouTube channel that he has.
Okay, I'm sorry. You should have told me that. So we recorded this, did we?
Yeah.
So I'm cussing and stuff. Is that going to go over all right?
Yeah. It's fine.
All right, good.
Yeah.
I tried not to, but a couple of slips there, but they'll get over it. Who watches it for that matter?
Our teacher himself, and like anyone who's interested in like the certain point of views in the history of Milwaukee itself.
All right. How many other students in this course?
There's about 5 other groups, I believe.
Oh, all right. Cool.
All right. Well, thank you, Father Bill.
Yeah, pleasure. Come and see our school sometime. If not this year, next. Or we'll challenge the Marquette High soccer team. We'll kick you up and down this field. We may not win, but we'll kick you up and down the field. All right. Peace. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. You too.
All right.
You too.
Adios. Pleasure. Bye-bye.
All right, you can stop recording.